Hello everyone, welcome to Scorcher Toys and AnyMoon.com's review of Bandai's original high metal super/strike parts accessory. This accessory was released in July 2011 for 2,100 yen and was a Tamashii exclusive. Inside the box, you got the super parts themselves with a strike cannon so you could switch them to strike parts. You got a set of reaction missiles, a fighter mode display stand adapter. In Garrowalk and Batroid, you would just use the ones that came with the toys. You also get stickers and instructions. In an effort not to waste any of your precious time, I'm going to cut to the chase for those of you who are familiar with the high metal R strike parts. These parts are almost exactly the same thing. There's a very subtle color difference. These are more blue. This is a little bit more gray blue, but otherwise very, very similar. Same molds, clearly used. If we turn the toy to its side, you could see the current high metal R toys have the skull emblem on them, as did the original high metal VF1S Fokker toy that came with strike parts. It has its skull emblem already on. The sold separately one has nothing there, so you can go ahead and apply whichever sticker is appropriate for what you're using it for. You'll also note there's a UN Spacey Tampo print on the high metal R toys that is not present on the original high metal toys. But there's also one little dot of red paint on the top of the high metal strike parts, both the ones that came with Fokker and the sold separately ones. You'll see it right there. And it's not on the high metal R parts. But otherwise, exactly the same thing you would get with, say, a Hikaru VF1S strike version toy. Again, just color issues. Now, you might be thinking, were there TV elbow armors that were available as part of this bundle? Clearly I didn't mention it, and the answer is no. Now that might just be trivia. A lot of people don't even know that there is supposed to be a difference. Here you could see the high metal R Max VF1J toy. They just went ahead and reused the Do You Remember Love style armors on there as well. So Bandai to date has never given us a true TV style armor. This accessory can be broken down into its core components, including rear boosters that do have a removable armor piece that pops off, exposing the detail of the engine itself. Now obviously this isn't as fine a detail as you would see on like a 160 Deluxe toy, but it's fairly nice. There's also the articulated bell on the back of the thruster, but that is the only articulated item on this accessory. You also have the option on the front of replacing a missile boom with a strike cannon. They both clip on in exactly the same way. Obviously the strike cannon has the ability to pivot for fighter and Garrowalk mode versus Batroid mode. There is no ability to pull anything out to expose missile detail there. Moving to the back, there is no pop-off piece on these back leg armors to expose the detail there either. So it's a little bit simplified version of what you might expect if you've handled 160 toys. Installation of the super parts is a very straightforward affair. I'm going to show you in Batroid mode because that's the easiest way to do it. We're going to start with the leg armor. It's got a peg on top and a peg beneath. There is a slot in the back of the leg on the top and one beneath, and obviously we're just going to install that by pressing forward. It should lock into place relatively firmly, although you'll see this one does have a little bit of play to it. Now moving up, we have again slot, peg, and then there's a little peg with kind of a grip on it on the back. So we just go ahead and install that like so, and you want to make sure you've got the same gun handle slot, so you're installing it on the right arm, or the appropriate arm, I guess I should say. Now moving to the back, we have these boosters. They just slide right into the backpack. If you wanted to, you could go ahead and just pull up and away to remove the boom and install the strike cannon. And they've got some pretty good little angles on the ends of the pegs, so you want to, it's going to be a little tricky. Just push in. You saw my little armor popping off there. Just push it back down. And then we can just go ahead and slide this right in. You can see there's a little guide piece also on there. And that'll fit like so. Now you'll see that the backpack's coming down. That's obviously no bueno. But there is a little mechanism here. If we push down on the backpack, that will lock it into place. And there you go. Now we can go ahead if we so desire, bring down that strike cannon, and there you are. Everything is on the toy as intended. These parts were released in July, a few months after Bandai had released the VF-1A Do You Remember Love toys. So that would be the more common use of these super accessories. I'm using a Max toy because it shows up better on camera. As you can see, everything is fine. The toy can be articulated just fine. These super parts are not getting in the way of anything. The weight of the super parts is something you just need to be conscious of, because you will have the toy fall backwards on you. But usually the back part of the foot is stiff enough where you can get it to stand no problem by just manipulating that. And of course you can get different leg poses and everything else. Now, one thing I did note, now of course you can put these parts on a high metal R toy. It will not cause a problem. But the high metal R toys, like this Hikaru that we showed earlier, have the backpack lock is kind of nerfed. It doesn't work quite as well. Now, the good news is they are super stiff toys, so there's enough stiffness there to keep that backpack up and straight. But on my original high metal toy, that lock actually, I can pull away and it's locked into position. It's not falling back at all. So something happened when Bandai went to high metal R, and because of that, the backpack does not lock in as well. But it shouldn't be a problem, at least when your toys are relatively new, because there's enough stiffness there. So here's gear walk mode, and I've got the integrated hands back on the toy now. And you can see the bigger toy makes the hands look even smaller. So those accessory hands are definitely the way to go when you're using super parts. Now, one big question mark when you've got an accessory like this is it going to impede that leg mobility in gear walk mode? And the answer to that is a definite no. Everything works just fine. The only little hiccup that becomes obvious when you get into gear walk mode, and maybe this is more about the underlying toy than the accessory, but these missiles seem to work better in certain angles than others. You can see it's kind of snapping into a position right now. So that can kind of impede what you want to do with the wings versus the angle you've got those missiles at, but generally a very small issue and one you can easily overcome. Similar to Batroid mode, if you get to fighter mode and your backpack's a little loose, it's flopping around, or the packs are angled upward, you just need to slide that backpack down and it should kind of lock into place with a nice horizontal angle. If you go too far back, you kind of repeat the same problem. So there's a sweet spot there to be aware of. Now, I mentioned this toy comes with a display stand adapter. It does not come with a Tamashii display stand though. The display stand adapter fits on very easily. It's got a couple little pegs that go into little slots there. Even with the gun in place, works just fine. And it should go on, no problem. And that's what it'll look like on a display stand. As you would expect, there's still plenty of clearance for the gun with the super parts installed. As far as the firmness of attachment in fighter mode, everything is pretty good. The reaction missiles might pop off on you, but it's going to take something bumping them to make that happen. There's a couple little questionable items. Sometimes it may give you an issue. The way the armor's attached to the arms is pretty secure, but the legs, there's a peg in the leg that then slides between the armor and the arm, and that just doesn't seem like the most secure way of doing things. It seems like that would cause some pressure to cause these armors to pop off, but it's never been a problem. The bigger problem is more the attachment of this peg to that hole. There's no real tooth on this peg, so it's a little too easy to knock that free. So that's my one real big complaint using the super parts in fighter mode. At the original MSRP of 2,100 yen, it'd be pretty easy to recommend these toys either for your old high metal toys or your new high metal R toys. These days, they've been out of production for a very long time. You're probably going to have to pay a fairly substantial premium to get your hands on them. And when you do, you're going to feel something that really feels like a 2,100 yen product. So it's up to you. Do you think that Bandai is going to reissue these parts as part of the high metal R line? If they are, they'll probably cost a little more than 2,100 yen, but it's hard to imagine they would cost greatly more than that. So it might be worth it to sit on the sidelines and watch. If you're really desperate, now you should have a pretty good idea idea what you're getting into, and you can figure out how much you're willing to pay. Check out anymoon.com for my full article, and as always, thanks for watching.